Okay. It says we are live. I'm just going to go ahead and double check this. Let's see. All right. I was able to send. Oh, there we go. Here we are.
Beautiful.
Wow. This is a wonderful, wonderful, momentous occasion. So, I'm just going to wait just about a minute or so till we get some viewers, some folks online. Um, Really, truly a pleasure to be here. Today is the second day of the Great Give 2023. The Great Give 2023 is sort of like a holiday for nonprofits and causes throughout the greater New Haven area of Connecticut in the United States. And we're here as the Community Healing Network to fundraise and meet our goal of $10,000. Last year, we were able to raise $7,000. This year, we're looking to raise 10 to support our various Black healing initiatives, with a particular spotlight on our emotional emancipation circles inside Pendleton Correctional Facility in Pendleton, Indiana. We've had an amazing first cohort who has gone through the emotional emancipation circle from January to February of this year. And we had a really remarkable time, not only being able to facilitate the experience, but to receive an abundant amount of knowledge, information, and wisdom and love ultimately from our first Pendleton cohort. So we're looking to spotlight uh, our second cohort and our ongoing cohorts for this pilot emotional emancipation circle at Pendleton, and hopefully, folks will be willing to give. We not only seek to fundraise for the emotional emancipation circle facilitators and their stipends, but we're also looking to make sure that the family members of our incarcerated family members who are on the outside, beyond the walls, are able to also experience and catalyze their journey to emotional emancipation. All donations will be matched this year by the Graustein Memorial Fund, who has pledged to match our fundraising efforts up to $15,000. And so far, and hopefully Enola, you can celebrate with me, we've raised $8,245.
I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Marcus. You leading this effort. You've made it so easy for us to do everything that we needed to do to set up our pages and everything. As our development associate, and we're deeply grateful for you. We're deeply grateful for each and every one who has contributed thus far. And our goal is to actually exceed our $10,000 goal this evening by this evening at 8 o'clock when this Great Give concludes. And it's wonderful to be in conversation with you. You know how I love intergenerational conversations, intergenerational work, and so I'm deeply, deeply grateful for the opportunity to engage with you, not only on the issue of fundraising but also friend raising. We're trying to reach out to people to let them know the work that we're doing here, why we see it as foundational to global Africa, to the rise of global Africa. So it's wonderful to have this opportunity to engage.
Likewise, thank you so much, Enola. I think that might be just before we go into introductions. I just wanted to spotlight some of those donors, some of those contributors that you were mentioning. Um, Wanted to spotlight Stephanie Robinson, who just
Stephanie
recently
Robinson,
gave.
my sister from up. She used to be here in New Haven. She's up in Cambridge right now. I love that woman. She is just amazing. I'm deeply, deeply grateful to her for everything that she does. And today's generosity is, just a part of who she is.
It's very much appreciated, and Karen Pashali also
Hey,
too.
EEC through and through, right?
Right.
She has
Right.
done such a wonderful work since she joined our community, and has been such a really wonderful champion of the EECs and for CHN. So thank you very much, Karen. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Yes, thank you. And if you have an opportunity to, feel free to go to our page. It should be in the comments here. Um, you're able to see the contributions and the reasons for why people are giving this year. So, thank you all to our glorious tribe of supporters. As Enola
No
was saying,
contribution is too small.
not at all, not at all. So I think so I'll introduce myself. You did celebrate me, and I really appreciate that, Enola. My name is Marcus Jabari Lane. I am the Development Associate at Community Healing Network. I've been here since November, and yeah, I'm really proud, really honored, and really blessed to be working for such an outstanding organization with such a rooted and fundamental, incredible cause and mission. It's really a testament, as I've said before, it's really a testament to the personal healing journey that I've embarked on, especially in the last several years, and to be able to culminate, this healing journey and to continue to do the work and do powerful work is tremendous for me. So, thank you, Enola, for having me. I really appreciate this.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
And then I'm sure, I'm sure a lot of folks know who you are. But if you can, Enola, for those who may not, maybe just arriving to our live stream,
Sure.
getting to know Community Healing Network for the first time, can you introduce yourself,
Sure,
please?
sure. My name is Enola Aird. I am the daughter of Ernesta Reed Aird, and Randolph Warren Aird, the granddaughter of immigrants to Panama, the Republic of Panama, from Barbados, Jamaica, Grenada, and Colombia. I am an African born in Panama, and it has been my deep blessing through my life to have an absolute irrational and grounded obsession and love for Black people. I consider it a true blessing. And I mentioned my great grandfather's Samuel Aline, who was a loyal follower of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And when I think about my rational commitment to the complete freedom of African people, I am certain that I got it from him, and I am deeply grateful to him for that.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Enola. Sounds like the Central America, South America, the islands are heavily represented here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I forgot to mention that I had the blessing many years ago, 17 years ago, of launching Community Healing Network from St. Luke's Episcopal Church, 111 Willie Avenue, right here in New Haven, with the help of a wonderful sister named Jill Snyder, Reverend Victor Rogers, who was the rector at the time, um, uh, Tony Tony Wright, who has passed on, but who was absolutely pivotal in making this organization possible. And there are lots of other people, but they were there at the beginning, believed in this, and must lift them up for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, that's extreme. That's really great to hear. Uh, Definitely want to take a moment, Enola. There seems to be like a slight raspy noise in the background of your mic. Do you know where that might be coming from?
I really don't. You know how I am on technology.
No worries. It comes in and out, so hopefully it doesn't disturb the audio too much. I still am able to hear you clearly. I was just wondering if that
I hear it too.
particular.
I can hear it coming in and out, but I don't see any, I'm not aware of any reason why it should be happening.
No worries then. Well. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction and for uplifting those folks, both in this realm and those who have transitioned, but have made this work possible and make this movement for emotional emancipation, the global grassroots movement for emotional emancipation, possible. So thank you for that. I know we spoke a little bit before us being on live about generational healing, and I was just wondering if we can talk a little bit about that as we introduce people to really the lie of white superiority and black inferiority. But if you don't mind, I think we can both speak to the importance of today in our conversation.
The focusing on the lie, maybe I should start with what we see as emotional emancipation, right? Emotional emancipation is freedom, complete freedom from the lie of white superiority and black inferiority, a lie that really created some 600, 700 years ago, created by Europeans to justify the enslavement of African people initially, and then ultimately to justify the colonization and the economic exploitation of the African continent that continues until today. The lie basically said that there was a hierarchy, a false hierarchy of humanity, with whiteness at the very, very top and blackness at the very bottom, and sometimes not even in the circle of humanity at all. For us, this lie explains so much of why it is that Black people all over the world today continue to suffer, continue to bear incredible burdens, and yet, what our ancestors and we have been able to accomplish with the weight of that lie, carrying the burden of that lie over the course of 600 years. I love to invite people to imagine what it will be like when, not if, but when we have finally freed ourselves and our children from that lie. How how much we will be able to achieve, having accomplished so much, even while carrying the burden of the lie. So that's what keeps me going. That's what gives me that spring in my step when I wake up each morning, knowing that I am working for a cause that is no question that is going to, the goal that we have is going to come true, which is complete freedom from the lie of white superiority and black inferiority, and a really reclaiming of our rightful place as African people in the circle of humanity. If you think about the lie as having cast black people out of the circle, freedom from the lie is about reclaiming our rightful place in that circle.
Thank you for elaborating on the lie. I definitely would love to tease out a little bit, if it's possible, Enola, some of the major players in casting this lie upon Black people and global Africa as a whole. What kind of entities, institutions, individuals were instrumental in casting this lie upon our people?
So let's start at the very beginning. If we talk about the transatlantic trafficking, and I like to call it the transatlantic trafficking of African human beings because I think it's a more precise term. It starts in around the 1400s, launched by the Portuguese. Very quiet, beautiful little country that everyone is wanting to vacation and do their Airbnbs at these days. They have a very powerful history in terms of launching the the trade in African human beings. They're not the only ones by any means of the Europeans, but they are the first. And they come with the imprimatur of the Roman Catholic Church. The kings basically go to the church, and this is the way things were done, for permission to do things, right? And they want to capture and invade the African, starting in the north of Africa. They want to exploit the people and the riches there. And so they go to the popes for permission, and a series of popes grant what they call papal bulls. Our friend Cam Howard, who is at Reparations United, used to be at NCOBRA, speaks very eloquently about this. These papal bulls are written to basically give permission to the Portuguese and the Spanish, and then ultimately everybody else who gets on the bandwagon to build the empires, the Portuguese Empire, the Spanish Empire, the British Empire, the French Empire, all in large part in Africa. What's interesting about these papal bulls is that they basically say you can go do this, enslave these people in perpetuity. And I spent a lot of time thinking about that in perpetuity and thinking about how they actually operationalized that in perpetuity. They operationalized it with regard to African people by saying that the sign of, by the lie, basically, by saying, because of the curse of Ham, which has some biblical foundation, right? They decide that the people who are cursed and therefore ought to be enslaved in perpetuity are the people of Africa. And that really takes hold. And it's had a long, long ride. We want to bring it to an end. What they meant to last forever, what they meant to be in perpetuity, we are bringing to an end by attacking the root cause of the oppression of Black people, by attacking that lie, by saying that the lie, which is obviously a lie, has got to go. It's got to be extinguished. So we first and foremost have to extinguish it from ourselves. Internally, we need to do the internal work through our emotional emancipation circles and other self-help support group processes that we've developed. We've got to get it out of our own minds. And then once there is a critical mass of Black people who are globally emotionally emancipated, free of the lie, we will be able to figure out, we don't know right now how to do it, how to extract it out of the whole globe, out of all of the global systems. But we'll be able to figure that out because we trust that once we've gotten back in touch with our understanding of our humanity and our greatness, and that our strength comes from being in community with one another, we will be able to figure out how we can free our children once and for all from the lie.
Wonderful. I was definitely hoping you can speak to some of these last parts that you just mentioned. You know, you are a child of a Garveyite, right?
Great granddaughter, proud,
Great
proud.
granddaughter, yes. So there, of course, there was a time period where the lie wasn't relevant, you know, to global Africa, to Black people, melanated beings across the globe. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to just how emotional emancipation reminds us of our glory, of
Mm,
our, highest accomplishments and achievements prior to this lie being casted upon us.
right, right. That for me, and Jan Berger, who was our community manager, hears me say this a lot. Um, Marcus Garvey said, "We Black people have a beautiful history, and we shall create another in the future that will astonish the world." He calls us to remember that we have a beautiful history, that before the lie, which erased that history, and Skip Gates does a really wonderful job in his, Great African Civilization series on PBS, which we encourage people within the emotional emancipation circle to go through to familiarize themselves with. Some of the first of all, Africa is the cradle of human civilization. The first human mother, mitochondrial Eve, is an African woman. Um, so those are sort of foundational issues. The great civilizations of humanity start in Africa, and that is what we remind ourselves of, right? That we have a great and beautiful history. And we use that history to empower ourselves to know that we will create another in the future that is going to astonish the world. And why it's so important at this moment is because a few years ago in 2018, we launched a Global Truth campaign and tour from New Haven, right here at St. Luke's Episcopal Church on Whaley Avenue. And we ended up just before the pandemic in Omaha, Nebraska. And a person who we met during that tour said something that I will never forget. His name is Professor Dr. Imani. He said, "We Black people embody in our very incarnation the struggle for the definition of what it means to be human." The definition of what it means to be human. Is it about I think, therefore I am, the Eurocentric vision, or is it I am because we are? We have been trapped as African people in the narrative that says, I think, therefore I am, which also says that people are to be used as means to ends. That's what makes enslavement possible. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as enslavement within Africa. That's not what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to sentimentalize African people. I am saying that we live by two fundamentally different values. I think, therefore I am, or I am because we are. For us, emotional emancipation for African people is about moving from the I think, therefore I am worldview into the I am because we are. And I think, if nothing else, the pandemic has helped us all as human beings to understand that at the heart of humanity is the I am because we are versus I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am gets us to the precipice of, not such good things. It gets us to the destruction of the planet. It gets us to the destruction of each other. I think I am because we are gives us a possibility of a well-rounded, more community-centered understanding of what it means to be a human being. So we believe that the journey that we are on toward emotional emancipation, toward recapturing and re-understanding of the notion of I am because we are as at the essence of humanity, is important not just for us, but also for the world. Does that make sense?
I think that's powerful. It absolutely does. I mean, something that I've appreciated personally about not only going through the emotional emancipation circle one-on-one experience, but then also becoming a facilitator myself, is how the 7 keys to emotional emancipation. The first key is, we recognize that as children of a divine force, our power, personal and communal,
It's
is
boundless.
is boundless, right? And I want to highlight that and uplift that, especially as you elaborated on Africa being the cradle of civilization, and just the civilizations that have emerged from the continent. For me, it's really important for in this shift between the I think, therefore I am, to more ways of Ubuntu, understanding that our humanity is in relation to, not only other fellow human beings, but also nature and all
Mhm.
living beings as a whole, this universe as a whole.
Mhm.
For me, it was critical and necessary for us to center spirit, for us to center the divine, because that's always how we've seen ourselves, that we are able to transcend, this body, this vessel that we're in, because we are a spark of divinity, as has been written, has been scripted, has been practiced and
Mhm.
known for thousands of years prior to us internalizing a more materialist, or just like a more separated understanding, an individualist understanding of our humanity.
Right, absolutely. Before we move on, I must lift up the name of the Association of Black Psychologists. Um, and because when we talk about the 7 keys, when we talk about the EECs, it is impossible for me to talk about it for very long without saying that. But for AB Psi, we wouldn't be there, right? One of the things that for whatever reason, and I do believe that it was God and ancestors who led me to the Association of Black Psychologists specifically. I had no idea why in this quest to build this movement, in this quest to create this self-help support group process for freedom from the lie, I went to the Association of Black Psychologists. I'm a lawyer, so I knew I needed significant help in making sure that whatever we developed would be psychologically sound, culturally grounded, evidence based. I realize that's not the way that's not really possible because this has never been done before, but certainly evidence informed. And for whatever reason, God and ancestors kept directing me to the Association of Black Psychologists. And then just miraculously, my husband on a book tour met someone who knew somebody at the association, and that's how we were led to the amazing Dr. Cheryl Tawede Grills, who was assuming the presidency of the Association of Black Psychologists and really took this and ran with it in terms of putting together the 9-member team of psychologists who we eventually brought down with the help of, full circle, Stephanie Robinson. Just so you know, she
Wow.
she supported that venture. And I just was, making the connection. She supported that venture in 2011 so that we could go down and do this work. And the psychologists brought their A game and really helped us put together something that was psychologically sound, evidence informed, culturally grounded, African centered, to help facilitate our emotional liberation from the lie.
Powerful, powerful. And I do want to uplift, this point about the mind. I guess as you were sharing and how you were talking about how you were drawn to the Association of Black Psychologists to do this work and to uplift
Mm.
this work, it reminded me of Hermetic principle. A principle that comes from Kemet, the ancient scriptures of Thoth. Um, that all is the mind. So one of the divine laws that that were taught in Kemet or in ancient Egypt was that all is the mind, right? And so if we are theorizing, if we're imagining ourselves, if we're literally thinking ourselves within this lie, then that's what reality will reflect.
Hmm.
And so for us to and for y'all too, because of course y'all have come before me to identify the healing of the mind and the restoration of the African mind as necessary for our collective liberation just speaks volumes to the work that's already been done and the work that has
And
yet to be done.
right, and that was the work that ABPSI has done. I mean, that is the heart of their mission, the liberation of the African mind. And so I was drawn, unbeknownst to me, because I hadn't read their mission statement. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew I had to find the Association of Black Psychologists. And that was God and ancestors. And I say this to our friends at ABPSI all the time, that I was personally led to them. And We're able to build in a wonderful spirit of goodwill and good faith, collaboration that's lasted now since around 2012. So it's been a long time.
Wow. Well, on this point about community and really being able to form and solidify relationships, partnerships, um, in unison with folks that are similarly minded, like minded. I just wanted to, uplift this point that we were talking about before we hopped on this live about global Africa rising right now in this current moment in time. And so I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to how, global Africa's reemergence is happening at this current time and what that means for us and the people that we are in community with.
Yeah, we're being called, I think. Just last month, middle of last month, was held the State of the Black World in Baltimore, Maryland, a 5-day conference. I was there for a very short period of time. But there were people there from the continent, Caribbean, Latin America, Europe. I mean, it was really incredibly powerful. The sense that it's not just rising, it's coming together. And again, it's because of the technology, right? It is enabling this, but then people are coming together in person with the intention that it is time. I love, it used to be called the diaspora, right? But increasingly it's being called global Africa, right? That speaks to the unity that is happening, right? The intention that we reunite, that we come back together. And that's happening through the Global Circle for Reparations and Healing, of which Community Healing Network is a part, the UN Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, which got its charter or its mandate from the United Nations last year, held its first session in December. It's holding its second session in May and June of this year. And I'm so thrilled, Marcus, that you're going to be representing CHN there. Um, we're coming back together. We've all been working in different ways on this rising, and now we're able to come together and see it through to its full fruition. I do believe of the many, many things that we have to do as an African people, and I'm, biased. I do believe that this issue of healing the emotional trauma, healing the some people, it's been called, I can't remember the name of the sister who writes about root shock, the shock that comes with being uprooted, not just from Africa, but being uprooted from everywhere, being uprooted from Route 34 in New Haven here, right? Because people decide that they want to, Eurocentric people decide that they want the space, and this happens all over the world, all over the United States. Black people got to move, got to be moved. And what is the emotional effect of that? We have to heal from all of that. And from my point of view, the root cause of all of this is the lie. And so healing from the lie becomes of paramount importance and an indispensable foundation, in my view, for Black healing, wellness, and empowerment. That doing this essential work of healing and healing from the lie will empower us to do everything else that we have to do. And there's been a great resonance in terms of people saying, hey, yeah, we, we think we need to do this. We think that once we do this, we will be stronger emotionally and spiritually, that we will be able to trust each other in a way that the enslavement process, um, essentially conditioned us not to. And part of the emotional emancipation process is about rebuilding that community, rebuilding that trust that's so necessary for us as.
Oh, thank you for those points, Enola. It's incredible because I was just reading. I opened up this text called "Seeking the Saku"
Hmm,
by Dr. Wade Nobles, and I didn't even go
A.B. Stein,
further. A.B.
Associated Black
right?
psychologist, huge thinker.
Just want to definitely celebrate
Lift him up.
Baba Nobles, of course. I actually came in contact or just came across Baba Noble's work by reading the Island of Memes, and then now I'm reading this particular text, and Dr. Dr. Hiller the third is the person who writes the foreword, and he was talking about exactly that in order for us to liberate ourselves, we need to have a shared worldview and understanding, and that shared worldview actually translates into trust, and that trust forms the cooperation that we need to have not only to survive but to flourish.
Mm-hmm,
So I
mm-hmm.
just wanted to say that
And I
to
also must say that we last year were blessed to be able to present to Dr. Wade Noble's Community Healer Award. Also, Dr. Linda James Myers, also a past president of the Association of Black Psychologists, who, and we see underneath here, embrace the truth. We see defy the lie and embrace the truth. I give credit to two sisters, of one of a younger generation and one an elder. My daughter was the one who coined the phrase "defy the lie," Leah Carter, and then our sister, Dr. Linda James Meyer, said, yes, we must do that, but we have to have something. We have to be opposed to something, but we also have to embrace something. And she was the one who said we have to embrace the truth. So it's very important for me always to review the history. And that was Defy the Line, Embrace the Truth is great. I think it's a wonderful kind of slogan for what it is that we're doing, but it was also developed intergenerationally. And I want to lift that up as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just a couple of things I wanted to speak to. Prior to these acknowledgments, you just mentioned. You were talking about the emotional trauma of and the emotional traumatic legacies of the transatlantic slave trade or slavery, the Ma'afa. And you were talking, you even gave an example of how, people are still being uprooted. We're still being uprooted from our homes and our locations. And I just wanted to emphasize that point, right? That, the violence of slavery is something that's still ongoing. And I say that, because it's pertinent, it's crucial for us uh, to not only acknowledge that, but it makes that the work that we do here at the Community Healing Network that much more necessary, right? That this is not something that's in the past and it happened to us. It did, but it's still happening today.
And that's because of the lie. If you say, the thing that was unleashed was intended to be in perpetuity, no one is going to stop it but us. And that's what makes your point, my point, the work that we're doing so important. The work of healing from it internally and then turning externally to extinguishing it entirely. There is no reason why we have to live with this in perpetuity. What I've said is what others intended to be perpetual, we are bringing to an end because our children deserve to be able to flourish in this world no less than any other children in the world.
Thank you for that. And I definitely want to say here too that this work that we're doing at Pendleton Correctional Facility is, everything that you said just makes it that much more important to continue to do that work. Considering that our incarcerated family members are experiencing the most egregious forms
Mm,
of how this lie still continues to operate. And we are not, I think we're dispelling the myth, that it's not something that can impact us or doesn't pertain to us either. If we're talking about the lie, this is
hmm
inclusive of all domains of our society, not just
Right.
those domains that people tend to cast away. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that.
I want to lift up another name that I know is on that list, Dottie Green, was former board member of CHN. Back in that living room, that dining room back there, she really opened my eyes to the fact that, we had a whole community of incarcerated family members who had tremendous impact outside, right? There's this synergistic relationship, and that we do a great deal of harm by not paying attention to them. I mean, they deserve, by virtue of their humanity, for us to pay attention to them in and of themselves. The principle of Ubuntu being at work, but also because they have a profound influence on us out here. So absolutely. I love lifting up these names and I love being in conversation where I can.
Me too. Me too. This has been a real extreme pleasure, real delight, a really delightful experience. I'm looking back at our notes today, and I believe we talked about everything that we intended to discuss. And so, just as we conclude this live, I just wanted to open the floor. Is there anything else that you would like to share
Yes,
with
I
folks
would
who
like
may
to
be tuning in?
say that the struggle is ending. For so long, people across global Africa, yeah, diaspora have said, the struggle continues, man. Like, we've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go. No, I think And I invite everyone to say the struggle is ending, because we're ending it, because we are in the process of extinguishing the most powerful and longest lasting barrier to our flourishing, right? The lie is the thing that we've got to get at if we want to flourish. That is the barrier to flourishing. And so we have set this decade, the 2021 to 2030, as the decade to embrace the truth of Black humanity, as the antidote to the lie of Black inferiority. And our goal is quite simply to put this issue of freedom from the lie at the very top of the global African agenda by the end of the year 2030. It may seem unrealistic, but I'm a big believer, as Zora Neale Hurston said, that Mama exhorted us to jump at the sun. We might not get there, but at least we would get off the ground. It is very important to have targets. And I absolutely believe that we can make this happen, especially now because Community Healing Network is in places like the UN Permanent Forum, through the International Civil Society Working Group that you're on, that I'm on as well. We are in places like the Global Circle for Reparations and Healing. We are in places like the State of the Black World. We are going to be at the Black on Black, Global Black on Black Healing event that's going to take place on May 23rd, Africa Day. So again, the diaspora, the global Africa is rising, and we ought to set our intention that we will end the struggle, because our children deserve no less.
Absolutely. And on that point about our unity, global unity, the global unity of Africa, or unity of global Africa, I should say. I had some thoughts around that a little bit earlier because you were speaking to it, right? So, you know, we're descendants of a very long, rich tradition of Pan Africanism, the unity of global Africa. And I wanted to say that, of course, the solution, to an anti-black world, right? Like not
Mm.
holding anybody or exempting, any institution or area or space, everyone or all these continental masses, the whole planet, is structured, on anti-blackness. So then, in my mind, the solution then has to be the unity of Black people. Um, and I wanted to say that because of course, when we talk about restoring our memory, I think it's important to highlight how our unity has been something that we've accomplished for thousands of years. It's not only in response to, this lie of white superiority and Black inferiority that we have come together, but that in fact there are many examples and instances where our cultures have come together and we've formed a unified front, not only in terms of opposition, but just in terms of our own flourishing. So just wanted to uplift that as we slowly conclude our call, and conclude this live. Um, and I just also wanted to too. I see a few comments here. There was a comment here that was made about our family being our family inside the walls and out. So I just wanted to affirm that. Um, there's other affirmations about the struggle ending. The 2030 is the decade, and that we are a global movement. Um, and someone said that they're sorry that they missed this live, but just wanted to announce that this won't be the last time we've come together and we explore the work that we do here at Community Healing Network and its impact, beyond our organization. So please look forward to that.
Thank you, Marcus. It's been a joy.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Enola. And just as we conclude this live, just wanted to say we hopped on this live partly because the Great Give 2023 is still happening. This is a fundraising event for nonprofits, causes in the greater New Haven area of Connecticut, United States, where we invite folks from the New Haven and beyond throughout global Africa to help us support the various Black healing initiatives that Community Healing Network facilitates. We have a particular spotlight, which is why we've been talking about our work at Pendleton Correctional Facility. We have a particular spotlight on our emotional emancipation circles in Pendleton, Indiana, at the correctional facility there. Uh, so far, we've had one cohort go through an emotional emancipation circle, a really deep, enriching, powerful experience, and we're looking to sustain our emotional emancipation circles inside Pendleton throughout this year. So, if you haven't already, there's actually a comment where you can click on the link and you can donate to our fundraiser. All proceeds will be matched by the Graustein Memorial Fund, who's pledged to match our fundraising efforts up to $15,000. So be sure to tell a friend, contribute some, and pass the word along that the work that we're doing here, we're continuing to uplift it and make sure that global Africa the healing, collective healing of global Africa, and the defiance of this lie of white superiority and black inferiority is widespread.
We've got 8,345 raised of our $10,000 goal, which we hope to exceed this evening. Thanks to you, Marcus, for everything that you've done to get us so close to the finish line, which we will pass tonight.
Yes, we will. Looking forward to it. Well, thank you for your time, Enola. I appreciate
Thank you.
your wisdom, your
Bless you.
insight, and look forward to more conversations.
Absolutely.
All right, take care.
Take care.